Thanks for joining me today, Liam.
Thank you for having me.
How are you? You've got a pretty busy schedule.
I'm all right, yeah. It's been a busy Monday, but part of the job. It's all for students, isn't it? That's what it's
Fantastic. So, to begin with, a lot of people might be watching this and realising, actually, I don't know what an education officer is. So, can you explain in your own words what it is you do, what committees you sit on, maybe some details about what your role is?
You don't want to know every single committee.
I do.
Okay, right, how long we got? No, joking. So yeah, good question. So education officer, how I see the role as being the voice for students on academic issues, what you may face when you're a student at Warwick, be it from study space to tuition fees to academic appeals, anything like that, the education officer looks after, basically. So as you said, yeah, I sit on quite a few committees. I sit on Senate, which is the university's highest decision-making body for education matters. I co-chair SLEEK, which is the Student Learning Experience and Enhancement Committee.
It's a mouthful.
I didn't just which looks over all the student learning experience, does what says on the tin. AQSC, the Academic Quality and Standards Committee. There's so many acronyms. God, so many more.
So, it's a lot of work.
Yes.
In simple, why did you decide to run for this role?
It's a really good question. Because I generally thought that I could make a difference to students' education experience here at Warwick, because I think it's such a fundamental part of life at Warwick. Obviously, you come here for a degree, so and I saw, through my 3 years here, a lot of stuff that I thought I could win for students, and I thought I could bring a lot to the table. Especially because I was a faculty rep beforehand as well. So I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go, give it a crack, and here I am.
Here you are. So I want to start by looking back at your manifesto. Now, I have your 5 key points.
Yep. So
study space finder app, tackling hidden course costs, wellbeing centre at the heart of campus, continuing fight for lecture capture, and opposing cuts and fee rises. So to begin with, how did you find those 5 key points? Was there a way in which you went out to students and said, what do you want, or was these the issues that you'd always seen sort of starting as a fresher?
So it's a bit of both. Obviously, I think most students watching this will resonate with the study space issue. That was something that I felt firsthand, and that's what I saw, almost every day, especially in term 3, about, the real lack of study space. I'm sure you've had it as well. I'm sure most students have had it around Warwick. So that's why I thought, easy one that I can try and win, and that's something that definitely matters to students. All the other things as well, I think it's a mixture of, okay, students, what do you actually want? What do you want from me? I'm your education officer. Especially around lecture capture, around hidden course costs, and especially around tuition fees as well. I think a lot of it, when I was making my manifesto, what I really wanted to get across was that I'll be a representative for you who actually campaigns on matters that are material to you, and I think hopefully I've tried my best to do that this year. So
out of those 5 key aims, what do you think your biggest success is, even if it hasn't maybe come from the manifesto?
Sure. So I'm pretty happy with the stuff I've done this year. So straight away, the Study Space Finder app, checking my Warwick app, that's on there. That was not on the purview of the university before me. There's now a Study Space Finder app. The library have helpfully with me set up that. If you look at it, it's about traffic light system on each floor of the library. So if it's red, it's
a bad day.
Bad day. If it's amber, good luck. Go see if you can find anything. And green if it's free. And with that as well, there's some signposting to other areas as well. So this is busy. Why don't you go to University House Learning Grid or Roots Learning Grid? There's still a lot more work to do with that. It's not great at the minute. It's quite static. It's not as precise as I want it to be. But hopefully I'm working with the university and see where it goes from there. More, if you want more?
Yeah, no, tell me more.
So from them 5, I think I've got an answer for all of them. The Wellbeing Centre in the heart of campus, that is happening. Senate House is being transformed into a student services hub.
Do you know when that's going to happen?
I can't tell you, but yeah, it'll be soon. Okay. TBC, with a load of asterisks on it. No, but there'll be service in there about wellbeing, hopefully around student careers at some point. Just a lot of student front-facing services that are at the minute disparate all around the campus. Some in Westwood, some in University House, some in Rantham for whatever reason. Bring them all together so it makes it puts these support services right heart and centre in the campus, so students can access them. So that's a big win, I think. Also, hidden course costs. This has been a tricky one, but what I've managed to do is set up a course cost working group with the university embedded in the governance structures under AQSC. What does that stand for? Do you remember?
I don't.
Academic Quality and
Oh,
Standards.
forgive me.
That's okay. So that's happened, which has been great. We need to now just do some auditing of actually what's happening and try and get some wins for that. So hopefully next year we'll get some actual concrete wins. What's my other one? Lecture capture as well. This has been a really hard one to tackle, but we've seen this year, I'm not going to claim this one, but there's been an increase in the use of lecture capture more than ever before. And that's because, in every meeting, myself and other people who are, very, say, advocates of lecture capture, keep pushing for it, and we're getting there. It's not perfect. We still haven't got, a universal lecture capture, but one day, I'm sure we will.
Now, you mentioned that you set up a working group,
Yep.
which obviously is something that not a lot of students will know about or even see. Do you think this is something that hinders the role of the Sabbatical Officer, where students are able to see that actually things are happening, but it's not straight away and it's not front-facing?
No, sure. I think, especially the education officer role, a lot of it, the day-to-day stuff, is quite boring, if I'm honest, for normal students. They're not going to, really want to know every single hour by hour of my day, because why would you? But that's just part of it, I think a lot of the stuff that the education officer role does is, incremental change, developmental stuff, where you don't really see the payoffs until, maybe a year down the line, or maybe, 6 months down the line. And when it does happen, we do shout about it. We shouted about the Study Space Finder app. We shout about the buses as well, which I've been involved with quite heavily with Michael. All that sort of stuff we do shout about when we do have, material wins. But I suppose we can always do better at communicating that, absolutely.
Okay. Now, obviously, you've given your successes, but obviously, as an opposite to that, there are going to be some challenges. No. None at all? Do you think there's any one issue in particular that you've really struggled to achieve, and maybe why have you struggled to achieve that this year?
That's a good question. I think just always dealing and handling all the different priorities, because there's a lot to do in the space of 1 year that you just can't do. It's simple as that. So as a sabbatical officer, you have to juggle many things: being a trustee, handling complaints, doing things with the university, so many things, and things just crop up all the time. So I suppose what that means is you don't have a lot of room to reflect and maybe think about what you could do differently. And maybe that's probably true. Maybe, for example, student casework potentially I could have done more of. Got involved more with the academic representation system, potentially helped give them more support. There was a bit of a manifesto about diversifying career fairs and all that sort of stuff. Didn't get around to doing that. Hopefully I will do it next year. Now I've got the space to do that. But yeah, that happens, right? You can't always do everything you want to, but hopefully, my successes outweigh the failures. You'll be the judge of that.
Well, now you've done a wonderful segue, because you are the president-elect for next year for Warwick Student Union. So I want to discuss that a little bit, because obviously it was an interesting campaigns week. We saw a decline in turnout for the election. So the 2018 turnout, according to the SU website, was 4,550, as opposed to last year, 5,620. Now, we had snow, we had strikes. What do you think were some of the biggest challenges?
There was also a fire.
There was a fire. What were some of the biggest challenges you found in election week?
So, obviously, I have the privilege of, if you want to call it a privilege, comparing last year to this year. And I'm not making excuses for the turnout. However, the snow and the strikes really, really, really hampered campus. I went campaigning in Leamington, went down to halls around there, which, you never do usually, because campus was just so dead. And that's where a lot of the engagement comes from, face-to-face, engagement with students, and that was obviously lacking, which is a shame. But I'm not making excuses for the voter turnout. I think, yes, you can always do better. It's good to bear in mind, though, that we're one of the best in the country for voter turnout, even though it's not great.
It's not great.
It's not great. However, it does show that we are doing a concerted effort to try our best.
Now, obviously, you did win the elections, so you've got another year working in the Students' Union. Are there any particular goals that you had as education officer that you are maybe transferring over to president?
So, I don't want to step on, Larissa, who's the new education officer's toes. I want her to work that out where she, thinks her priorities lie. I'm going to go through that with her doing a handover. But things that I can see that I would love to carry on is the study space stuff. a lot of stuff around, the university strategy, trying to be involved with them as well, trying to be the liaising student with that. I want to, again, pick up some loose ends of that around with the buses as well. I want to do more around there, alongside the new DDO. But yeah, again, it's up to Larissa, really. I'd want to step on her toes.
Now, we will talk about some of your presidential aims, but I do want to go back to campaign week. So obviously we had the strikes.
Yes.
Now, I think something that's really interesting is that you chose not to cross the picket line during the strikes, and you didn't go to any lectures or do any lecture shout-outs. Can you explain maybe a little bit behind that decision, and whether you think that impacted you positively, or maybe it hindered your campaign week?
I don't know. So, around the time, we've got to remember context here. We just passed SU policy to support the strike, and so that obviously just shows how important and popular it was at the time to do that. It may have changed now. I'm not stating that has or not, but I think for me, my instinct is always to support our lecturers. They face many similar challenges to students do. They are true allies in the fight for better education for all. So an attack on staff is an attack on students, and the continued marketisation of higher education by the government was materialised in these pension reforms, and so something similar to that could have easily have happened to students, and also, but at the end of the day, these pension reforms would have affected the learning experience of students in the long term. So for me, it was there was no moral quibble about what I should or shouldn't do. I knew straight away that I should be in solidarity with the striking staff, and that's what I did.
And you chose to do that for the entire week?
I did.
Excellent. So your presidential aims, what can we expect from a year of Liam Jackson as SU president?
Another year, crikey. You'll get bored of me soon, I'm sure. No, again, as I said before, I've touched on what continue the work on the buses, and there's a lot of opportunity where we still need to carry on. Obviously, we had some fantastic wins around replacement bus passes and greater service of buses in Easter vacation time. But there's a lot of, still issues around overcrowding. It's not a nice environment for students, especially when you're paying so much money. It's too expensive for that aim as well. The university really needs to start subsidising it and take transport as part of their strategy as well. So that's one thing. Study space again. So yeah, I've done the study space finder app. I'm really happy about that. It seems to be going down as a great success. However, we still need more study space. So that's going to be another thing I'm pushing on. I've already set up, again with the university, some sort of study space strategy work as well, so seeing the ends of that would be really useful. I really want to push for a multi-year sports federation, because I think that sports should be available to more people at a reasonable price. I'm sure there's other things on the manifest. It's been a long time since I wrote it, but there's a lot there, especially around mental health as well. I want to try and get some more investment into mental health funding. Okay,
and you'll be leading an entirely new sabbatical team.
I will be.
With, for the first time, 2 second-year students. So what advice will you be giving them going into the role? Obviously, you've done it for a year now. What are you going to tell them?
Chill out. I think that's the best thing about it, especially if you're coming in from a second year. You're going to feel potentially, a bit out of place, a bit out of experience. However, these are the views that we actually need. We need more diverse views in the SU to make us more relevant and, keep being relevant to the student body. So actually, I think they're going to do a great job. I'm really looking forward to working with them. I'm always going to be there for them if they need anything, but they don't need my help. They're great. Brilliant.
And one last question for you, and you can answer this from the perspective of an education officer or as a president. What is, would you say, the one major issue that is facing students right now? Maybe it's something you can't tackle, but one issue that we really need as a community to solve.
Sure. I'm going to cheat with this one and give you 2.
Oh no.
Reason being, because I think there's some short-term, real pressing issues, and also long-term pressing issues. I'll start with the long-term one first, and that generally is the marketisation of higher education and society in general. To be honest with you, it's whilst people might not feel the direct impact of it now, the change to marketisation in general is very much detrimental to not just yourselves now, but your sort of culture and your ideas of what you'll be doing in the future. Is going to completely change the shape of society. When we get a culture of marketisation, that devalues education, that devalues your degree, and when you go into the workplace, it's not going to be fit for purpose for you. So, I mean, that's the biggest issue, I think, for society to deal with, and looking forward to try and push back at that as much as we can. But also, short term, I think it's definitely housing strategy. We have not got a housing strategy as of yet, for off campus. The conditions that students live in and how much they get ripped off is honestly disgusting. And as a union, our focus should be, looking after these people's rights. That's what we're doing. And as president, I want to try my best to fix as many of these ills as possible.
Well, thank you, Liam, for joining me.
No problem. Thank you for having me.